As the game of sports has grown internationally, the influence of sports betting has increased year after year. We have seen a steady increase in the amount and type of sports that have been betted on. Apps like PrizePicks, FanDuel, Sportsbook, and Kalshi make sports betting easily attainable, especially for the younger generation and college students. The NCAA has put rules and regulations to restrict the use of college sports betting within their student athletes.
Sports betting has completely changed the way college sports feel, especially for athletes actually playing. It's not just about winning or losing anymore. It's about whether someone hit a spread, covered a line, or made somebody money. In former interviews with college basketball players, somebody like Steven Vasquez talked about how he would get messaged every single night. DMs from strangers talking about bets placed on them or yelling out their betting lines during games. At that point, it stopped being about basketball and starts becoming about something else. And that same pressure shows up in sports like golf, where every single shot matters. One swing can decide not just a scorecard, but somebody else's money. That kind of environment builds tension, even if athletes try to ignore it. It becomes even more serious when we look at women's sports. Female athletes already fighting for recognition, and now they're also dealing with increased attention from sports betting and, in many cases, even more online criticism and harassment. Players like Ava Bates are focused on improving, competing, and building their careers. But now they're also performing in a system where fans are watching through a betting lens. At the end of the day, sports betting isn't just changing how fans watch, it's changing how athletes experience the game. And at the college level, that shift can be more dangerous than people realize.
Some basketball players that I have in the past. But with sports gambling getting to a more convenient spot in the United States, has the golf team seen anything with sports gambling that they maybe thought needed to be a conversation with you guys or anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of. I think maybe because golf probably isn't, I guess maybe it is for the average person to bet on professional tournaments, but I don't know, I've never really experienced anything here about it. It's just for golf specifically.
And this is there betting or legal gambling in New Zealand where you're from?
Yeah.
So was that wasn't too big of a culture shock coming here, and like the gambling was like getting like really popular through multiple apps and everything like that?
No, I think at home there is a pretty bad environment around gambling, and that's something that I've not really thought too much into either, so it wasn't really a shock when I came here. But
so comparing the United States gambling to New Zealand, it just wasn't that big of a deal to come over here and do that?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised about the amount of talk that it kind of gets in conversation, but it also is a fair conversation to have, but it wasn't as huge.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's when I talked to a couple of other NCAA players at Fresno State with basketball, they were like, it's probably one of the most talked about things. Mm-hmm. With the tournaments, with March Madness, with being in the dormitories and everybody knowing if you're playing or not, there's just a bunch of different levels to it. I've been trying to figure out the different sports, and so you're saying that golf doesn't necessarily have that level of like constant reassurance, but blanking on the word, but like the environment around golf is not necessarily centered around the gambling as much as the basketball and the football.
Yeah, I don't think as much as other sports, but I know, maybe I'm just not really in a circle that really would bet on golf.
Yeah.
I know people do it, but it's not like March Madness, I wouldn't say. It wouldn't level up with that. Yeah.
And what does NAU do, or any advisors do when they talk to you guys about sports gambling from the start of the season and let you know what's not allowed? Is there anything allowed?
I believe we have compliance. That's part of our compliance.
So athletes and staff within athletics are not allowed to involve themselves in gambling whatsoever.
So nothing at the professional level?
Full stop.
Okay.
I think that's probably why that's not really a thing that we know about, because we don't touch it at all.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of because what we're talking about with our project here is it is a little bit of the sports gambling. It is a little bit of the females golf team. It's a little bit of everything. Like, what makes the NCAA so competitive? What makes it so bet on? Are there issues with it? And we've talked to a lot of more of the men's sports teams, so I really wanted to take an approach.
I have no idea.
Okay.
No, I think
Yeah,
it's
22.
22. Yeah,
22, right?
26, yeah.
So in your 4 years here at the university, and I really hope I didn't just blink on that. In your 4 years here at the university, what might have been like at least the best lesson outside of golf that you've learned?
I think it all just goes back to who you are. Like, I just think that, especially golf, like, it relates a lot to life. Like, you can kind of take things from golf that you've learned, they go reflect back into life. But I think that, like, the way you walk around, and if you can be proud of who you were at the end of the day, I think that's probably the biggest thing. And, you know, you're not always going to please people, and not everyone's going to be happy, but as long as you can look in the mirror and be happy with who you are and the person that you're being.
Yeah. And then one more sports betting related question is, when you got here in 2022, was the conversation the same as it is in 2026 now? Very just low, I guess, in the volume in betting, or has it gotten a little bit more in conversation in recent years?
I think athletics as a whole, it is a more spoken about topic, but again, because we can't do it, like, it doesn't really come up for us, especially as golfers. I think it's a bit of a random one to bet on, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. And this is kind of more of a personal question I think is funny, is with the NCAA, it's a zero betting policy on everything from professional sports there, correct?
Any sport that is played collegiately that is professional. So, like, you could bet, like, I could bet on, like, a horse race because there's no NCAA sport for a horse race.
Okay, I was gonna say, like, could you go back to New Zealand and bet, or would the NCAA say there is a?
I think
Sure, there's rules on it.
I think it'd probably be safer not to, but
Yes.
I don't think they're probably finding out if I just probably wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
just
recommend
staying
it.
safe, not
Yeah.
doing it. You're so close
Yeah.
to graduation, it just
Yeah.
not a thought in your mind, doesn't matter anyways. And we're not even trying to say like you should, like no, not at all.
Yeah.
And then I want to say that's kind of, let me see if I missed one here, but that's kind of most of what I wanted to get out of this, and I really appreciate the time you've given us. And then maybe, I guess this one could be more of just a pushing question is, at any point through here, like most students who have been able to utilize resources and they've suffered from like depression or anxiety, has there been anything that like you remember pushing through that you were just like, the resources here at NAU, the coaches, it made this university 100% worth it?
I mean, I think we go through a lot as athletes just in general and having to balance that kind of lifestyle, but I think that we have great resources here. I've never really been in a situation where I haven't been able to get help for anything I've needed help for, so yeah.
That's awesome to hear. I know a lot of students like myself have been in situations where we might not have realized where the resources were, but like for most people to hear that there actually is resources here to help students, student athletes, or even faculty that's going through something. Because we're all human at the end of the day, whether you're playing a sport here or you're coming for business or whatever it is. Sometimes we all get sad. Like,
Yeah.
you get homesick, and I imagine like there was some sort of like conversations to be had and reassurance of like good people here that have helped you out.
Yeah.
And you know, when I've talked to people from other universities, like the bigger the university is, it seems the less they've cared. And I do really like how personal NAU has felt. Have you felt that's pretty accurate? That's been very personal with everything here.
I think so, for the most part, yeah.
That's awesome, man. And I think we probably have enough right here. I really appreciate the time you've given us today and answering my questions.
Yes, thank
And
you.
we can wrap that up. When you got here in 2022, was the conversation the same as it is in 2026 now? Very just low, I guess, in the volume in betting, or has it gotten a little bit more in conversation in recent years?
I think athletics as a whole, it is a more spoken about topic, but again, because we can't do it, like, it doesn't really come up for us, especially as golfers. I think it's a bit of a random one to bid on maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. And this is kind of more of a personal question. I think is funny is with the NCAA, it's a zero betting policy on everything from professional sports to everything, correct?
Any sport that is played collegiately that is professional. So like you could bet, like I could bet on like a horse race because there's no NCAA sport for a horse race.
Okay, I was gonna say like could you go back to New Zealand and bet, or would the NCAA say there is a?
I
Sure,
think
there's rules on it.
I think it'd probably be safer not to, but
Yes.
I don't think they're probably finding out if I just probably wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
just
recommend
staying
it.
safe, not
Yeah.
doing it. You're so close
Yeah.
to graduation, it just
Yeah.
not a thought in your mind, doesn't matter anyways. And we're not even trying to say like you should, like no, not at all.
Yeah.
And then